Tech Rundown.
Yes, it is the Tech Rundown, as you just heard, joined in the studio by tech presenter Davis Fang. Morning, Davis.
Morning, Cristo. Thanks so much for having me.
Nice to see you this morning. Now, of course, I am here in person, as are you, but I'm fully expecting that in a couple of years' time, perhaps even before, I'm going to be replaced by a robot or AI.
So I feel that maybe you're not a big fan of robots. Is that right?
They creep me out a little bit. I don't have a particular loathing of them, but they freak me out a bit. But I fully expect to be replaced by one.
Okay, so you are sort of expecting a sentient robot society to take over the world one day?
Yeah, it'll probably kill us all, yeah.
Well, I'm afraid that now might be the time to panic, because there was a viral video this week. And in this viral video, it showcased what appeared to be a robot-on-robot abduction, which has sort of sparked fears of sentient robot societies taking over the world one day. So
let's watch this robot napping. Okay, so we appear to be watching one robot following another robot. Now, some other robots are following these.
Yeah, so in this video, so there's a robot called Urbai, and he asks another group of robots, "Are you working overtime?" And then it actually receives a reply saying that, "I never get off work." And then Urbai follows up with, "So you're not going home?" And then gets a reply, "I don't have a home." This is terribly tragic, of course. And then Urbai says, "Come home with me." And that actually prompts the mass walkout of the robots. And that sounds clinically insane, doesn't it?
Was Urbai consenting to being taken out of the building, or was Urbai forced to be taken out of the building?
So this is where the story gets interesting, because Urbai, which is sort of the kidnapper, we could say, was developed by a Hangzhou-based company, and the other robots were in the showroom belonging to a Shanghai-based manufacturer. And then the Shanghai company claimed that the Hangzhou team actually didn't consent to the Shanghai team didn't consent to this particular kidnapping. However, they were in the talks of perhaps making this happen. And the
robot napping.
Yes, the Hangzhou team actually had a robot asked it with artificial intelligence to kidnap the Shanghai robots, and obviously it went rather well, a little too well perhaps.
I'm exhausted by that. I really have. I mean, do we have to now be worrying about, like, robot napping and robots not sort of consenting to being taken places? And if they're sentient, do we need them to be, happy about what it is that's being done with them?
I think the fear is that perhaps this could one day in the future result in a actual human kidnapping, because this AI is so advanced now. But for now, it's just
robots could kidnap a human.
I think that's the eventual fear, as well,
we're going to end up, we will have robots that we want to clean and do the hoovering and all that for us, but soon we're going to be cleaning and doing all the hoovering for the robots, right?
That might be the case. Who knows?
Great. All right, now, somewhere where you find a lot of robots are, of course, car factories.
Yes.
Right? I remember in the 80s, it was a big selling point. I mean, you won't remember the 80s, but, of course, you were just a glint in the eye. But there was a big campaign in the 80s for the Fiat Strada, right?
Yes,
and it was hand-built by robots.
I remember that, yes.
Oh, OK, amazing. Well, of course, that was advanced at the time. Now, I mean, did car manufacturers use AI and robots and things like that? Are that advanced?
Possibly not AI, but robots are very much part of the production process. Has been since the 80s, as you talk about.
But Vauxhall, what's going on there when it comes to, well, they're going to be getting rid of some of their robots, maybe robot napping mums.
So this story obviously has been talked to death over the past week. Stellantis has announced the closure of the Vauxhall Luton plant, which is effectively their commercial plant, and that will affect 1,100 jobs. And they're blaming the UK's zero-emission vehicle mandate for the closure. But I do think that the story goes a little bit beyond that, because as we all know, the ZEV mandate requires that all cars by 2030 in the UK, or 80% rather, to be powered by batteries. But unfortunately, Vauxhall is just part of the massive Stellantis conglomerate, and they've got a bunch of issues like all over their company. For example, in Italy, they've got the Fiat brand, and they've created a brand new EV 500 model, and sales for that are so bad that they're actually reverse engineering a combustion engine into it.
That's
so
a very interesting story, actually, because what they've had to do with Fiat is because, of course, you know, the 500 in its current form is one of their best-selling models.
Yes.
But the problem is that because of, now, you may know this better than I, but they have to get rid of the current model, even though it's selling really well, because they can't retrofit the speed limiting technology into it.
Yes, to be fair, I think it launched in 2008, which makes it absolutely ancient by car standards.
Yes, but still selling really well. I mean,
tremendously well.
So from a car manufacturer's perspective, it's almost pure profit now, because all of their development costs for that car have been recouped. It's still a model that people are buying. People still like it in its current form, but because of these EU rules on speed limiters, they're having to get rid of a perfectly good model and go for this new model. But the problem is the new model doesn't come in a combustion engine.
Of course.
And no one's buying the electric one.
I remember when the previous model came out in 2008, it was roughly a £10,000 car. And the new model, you can spend upwards of 40 grand on it. So it's quite obvious, like, the reason why it isn't selling. And then just reverse engineering a internal combustion engine into it is just hilarious, if you ask me. And the same thing is happening in America with the Dodge brand, for instance. They've introduced a new electric Charger muscle car to replace the internal combustion ones, and sales are so bad that they're actually shoehorning an internal combustion 6-cylinder engine into it. So it's happening all across the Stellantis company, and I think it's because of the disasters that they're having both in Europe and in America that we're just seeing a lot of closures possibly happening in Stellantis in the future, and Luton might just be the first.
Am I right in thinking that the speed limiting technology is the reason why that Fiat is the outgoing Fiat is going? Do you think it was that?
It's a wide variety of reasons. Firstly, it really needed an update. It just wasn't keeping up with the competition. It is obviously from 2008, and there's safety issues as well regarding curtain airbags, stuff like that.
OK, so it's more than just the speed limiting stuff. But you're right, it's an absolute disaster that Stellantis are getting rid of Vauxhall in Luton. I mean, that's been around for absolutely donkey's years, and blaming this electric vehicle mandate. Absolute disaster. OK, when we return, we'll talk more about cars. Jaguar as well. Some defective... That's another electric car story. Like I said, that's not good news either this morning. So we'll talk about that and some other stories too, all here live on Talk. Now, Davis, it's been a disastrous couple of weeks for Jaguar, and I was speaking about this actually on my YouTube channel, which is Cristo_radio, if you'd like to subscribe, and because it is tech, isn't it? But no, the thing about this rebrand, I know you're not talking about this, you spoke about this last week, but I just need to say this. The thing about this rebrand is I sort of understand the logic of saying, right, we want to go for this new demographic. We want to show that we're right on. We want to show that we are sort of accepting of the LGBT and various different ethnicities and all of these sorts of things, and have this real social justice message. And I get that brands need to go for younger people. Completely understand that. But the problem that I can't get my head around is that your petrol-headed, wealthy target consumer is not probably going to be that young left-leaning person whom that video would be attracted to. So you might get lots of people going, great, Jaguar, really right on, we love them, they're absolutely great, but they're not going to buy Jaguars.
The thing is, I talked about this last week as well. Like, I own a Jaguar. I've got younger friends of mine back in Australia who own Jaguars as well. It kind of is a cool brand. We saw the F-Type 10 years ago, which was a very cool sports car. They came back with, you know, a modern-looking XJ, a modern-looking XF as well. It was starting to become a cool brand because it was a little bit brash.
No one was buying it.
Yes, that is true. That's probably because they were going head-to-head with Mercedes, with BMW, a sort of a space that they didn't really exist in up until, you know, 20 years ago, during the height of Ford's takeover of Jaguar. But anyway, this week we are talking about even worse news for Jaguar, because obviously they are doing this this very odd advertising campaign in conjunction with their move to fully EV vehicles. So they've basically discontinued all of their internal combustion vehicles to go in this direction. But their current only electric model, the iPace, isn't doing too well because they are literally buying back almost 3,000 of them in the US. Yet there have been so many recalls of the 2019 to 2020 iPaces that they've just given up. They're like, we can't fix it. They use LG batteries that have been problematic in other electric cars too. And they're just saying, we will buy them back. And I just think this is just the worst possible timing for Jaguar. Well, or you could also argue it's good timing because no one really cares about the story because people are still talking about the very weird ad.
I mean, I could buy, I'm looking on Auto Trader now, so for £18,000, I could buy, for actually, let's have a look, hang on, let me just make sure that they've not been in sort of terrible accidents, because, you know, sometimes you have...
Going on Auto Trader is one of my favourite pastimes, actually.
I love seeing how much, you know, cars that were an absolute fortune have... so let's have a look. So, yeah, I can buy a 2019 Jaguar I-Pace for 18 grand.
Yeah, and there were £80,000 new, so that is massive depreciation.
Be sobbing if you had one of these. I can buy a 2021 here for under 20 grand as well. So I mean that is just such a huge drop in the price of these, and it is a disaster if you own one. Okay, you can do one more very quick story. Which one do you want to do? I think the social media one, maybe.
Okay, which one's that? The LinkedIn one?
Yes.
Okay, so LinkedIn believes that they are not cool enough with young people to be considered a social media platform. So basically, we've talked about this a lot as well. In Australia, they are banning people under 16 from using social media. It's actually something that's come into effect now, and social media companies like Meta, like TikTok, have a year to implement some sort of, you know, biometrics like Face ID, restrictions to login, something like that. But
to stop under 16s being able to log in.
Yes, that's correct. And that's something that might come into play in the UK as well. But LinkedIn believes that they are, you know, so business-minded that children probably don't want to be on the platform. Like, Cristo, are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn, but I never really use it. I don't really do anything with it. I'm more on YouTube, actually, which is Cristo_radio, which is my YouTube
I'm on YouTube
handle.
As well, Davis Fang Tech.
Oh, good. All right. Well, that's nice that you're on there. But yeah, I don't use LinkedIn all that much. But then, so they want to not be part of the ban.
Precisely. So it's actually quite expensive, as you might imagine, to sort of make sure that kids are not on the platform.
So it's not because they're trying to attract children. They're basically saying, well, actually, we don't want children, but no, why would a child be on LinkedIn anyway?
Precisely. But the thing is, I remember being in high school and creating a LinkedIn profile because we had to as part of an assignment. But LinkedIn does claim that the minimum age is 16. But this goes on as well because Ofcom did a report this week, and apparently 22% of 8 to 17-year-olds are faking their age online. They're claiming that they're over 18. Oh. But the thing is, will these people, these kids, lying about their age, want to be on LinkedIn?
Well, exactly. I mean, if you're that uncool that you're lying to be on LinkedIn, I kind of think, well, just let you go on there. I mean, what are you going to do? Find business tips? Listen to motivational speeches?
At the same time, I feel like that if this ban does go forwards, and it definitely is at the moment, LinkedIn might actually become the underground cool place where kids reside.
But also, we should think as well, those people with ill intent might go on LinkedIn and say, well, actually, I've got this great job for you if you are young, and actually then we end up with a situation which is not desirable. Listen, thank you. That's Davis Fang with his Tech Roundup.
Tech Rundown.